Welcome to Summary of the Week, your quick guide to the top headlines. Today is Saturday, October 18th. Here's a recap of some of the major events this week. Overnight Russian attacks across Ukraine Friday to Saturday left at least 6 civilians dead and dozens more injured. 2 were killed in Chernihiv. They were the victims of a so-called double-tap strike. The Russians often hit a target, then hit it again shortly after, aiming to eliminate emergency responders and repair crews. 2 more civilians were killed in the Donetsk region where, not counting the tragedies of Mariupol or Volnovakha, some 3,678 civilians have been killed in Russia's invasion. 2 more, a 66-year-old woman and a 7-year-old boy, were killed by Russian attacks in the Zaporizhzhia region. On Monday, Georgia's ruling Georgian Dream Party unveiled strict new rules targeting protesters. Following recent clashes in Tbilisi, the legislation would criminalize certain protest activities and give police broader powers. Offenses like blocking roads or carrying banned items could lead up to 60 days in detention, and repeat offenders could face a year in prison. This marks a sharp escalation in the government's crackdown on dissent. New data from Germany's Kiel Institute published Tuesday showed European military aid to Ukraine dropped sharply this summer. Europe sent just 3.3 billion euros in July and August, down 57% from earlier this year. Most recent aid came through NATO's new US-led weapons purchase program. Analysts warn that if the slowdown continues into autumn, Ukraine's defense efforts could be at risk. On Tuesday, Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky announced that Ukrainian assault units had advanced a mile in the Donetsk region. The 33rd Separate Assault Regiment and the 253rd Battalion were commended for their efforts. Meanwhile, the Azov 1st Corps repelled a major Russian attack near Shakove, destroying 16 armored vehicles and eliminating 78 enemy troops. Over a 24-hour period, Ukrainian forces engaged in 190 combat clashes and struck 7 Russian troop concentrations along the front line. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is preparing a €500 million financing package for Naftogaz to support urgent gas imports as Ukraine faces intensified Russian attacks on its energy infrastructure. On Tuesday, EBRD Vice President Matteo Petroni told Kyiv Post that discussions with international partners are underway to help Ukraine through the winter season. Hundreds of young Russians gathered Tuesday on St. Petersburg's Nevsky Prospect and performed a banned Anti-Putin song. The song, Cooperative Swan Lake by pro-Ukraine rapper Noise MC, was outlawed in May 2025 for calling for regime change. Street musician Diana Loganova, 18, allegedly led the public performance, which drew the crowd despite tightening restrictions on dissent. Loganova was arrested and is now being investigated for the act of discrediting the army, a charge that is regularly used by the Kremlin to stifle dissenting voices. Thousands of people have been tried on such charges, and hundreds have been sentenced to prison, often to lengthy terms. In Kherson, Russian strikes from Tuesday night to Wednesday morning killed 3 civilians and injured 14 others, including a 1.5-month-old baby, damaging homes, vehicles, and infrastructure. In Chernihiv, drone attacks targeted gas stations and homes, sparked multiple fires that emergency crews worked to contain. The Kharkiv, Sumy, and Donetsk regions were also hit in mass Russian attacks that injured at least 23 people across Ukraine. Ukraine's security service confirmed Tuesday that Odesa Mayor Hennady Trukhanov holds Russian citizenship, a charge he has long denied. As a result, his Ukrainian citizenship has been revoked under national law. Sources say this overturns previous government findings and effectively ends his mayoral tenure, unless courts intervene. On Wednesday, President Zelensky appointed Serhiy Lysak as head of the newly established Odessa City Military Administration. In Wednesday's early hours, a Ukrainian drone strike hit the Ufa-Orgsyntez oil refinery in Ufa, Russia, located over 1,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. The attack caused visible smoke in the industrial zone and led to temporary airport restrictions in Bashkortostan. This incident follows a similar strike on October 11th against another Bashneft refinery in Ufa. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara met Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow Wednesday, their first meeting since Bashar al-Assad was ousted last December. Shara called for a redefinition of ties, emphasizing Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Behind the scenes, he was expected to press Russia to extradite Assad, who has been living in Moscow under Russian protection. The leaders also likely discussed the future of Russia's military bases in Syria, though neither addressed these points publicly. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte announced Wednesday that over half of NATO members have pledged to support the alliance's prioritized Ukraine requirements list initiative aimed at facilitating the purchase of U.S. weapons for Ukraine. While Rutte did not specify the exact number of member states involved or the amount pledged, he confirmed that at least 16 countries are participating. The spending will count toward the 5% national defense spending target set earlier this year. This initiative comes amid concerns over dwindling U.S. supplies and aims to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump held a phone call with Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. Trump said he would meet Putin in Budapest within the next 2 weeks, following what he called a very productive phone call. The call came ahead of a planned meeting with President Zelensky on Friday, in which the Ukrainian leader was expected to appeal to the U.S. to sell it long-range Tomahawk missiles. Officials say American and Russian high-level advisors will convene first. Then Trump and Putin will meet in Hungary, one of the most Russia-friendly European nations. In the evening before the summit with Trump, residents in President Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi awoke to explosions and fires as Russia launched a large-scale drone attack. Ukrainian officials say 22 drones were shot down, but some still struck energy sites, knocking out power in nearby communities. 2 women in nearby communities, aged 69 and 89, were injured in the shelling, and emergency crews worked through the night to contain fires and restore electricity. Zelensky said that Russia will only stop the war when it is forced to stop. Quote, "True readiness for peace is not in Putin's words, but in stopping attacks and killings, and that's exactly what he cannot do," Zelensky said. Our summary of the week goes to Friday afternoon, Kyiv time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next Saturday.